What is happening, everybody? Welcome to Off the Rails, a recovery podcast dedicated to ending the stigma of addiction through open discussion on all things recovery related. My name is Mark. With me always is Dave. And today we got a very special guest. He's been sober since July 21st, 2010. He's a motivational speaker. And for more information, you can visit him on BrentWright.com. We got Brent Wright today. And thank you so much for joining us today, Brent.
Oh, you're very welcome. My pleasure.
Yeah, what we usually try to do is just have we have our interviews here, and we put them all once a week with our guests, and just try to have a conversation and hear their stories, and hope that people's stories can help other people that are maybe struggling, or family members that might have someone struggling, and kind of help to end the stigma as well around addiction and mental health. So appreciate your time.
So Brent, let's get it started, man. Where are you from, man?
I'm from Kokomo, Indiana.
Okay, good stuff. Born and raised?
Yes. Yep.
Yes.
I lived in Indianapolis for a while, and also I moved out to California for a short time in my 20s. That was a disaster, but that was an addiction, so it's all a disaster then, as you guys know.
Absolutely, man. Growing up for you, I guess, man, like what was life like growing up?
Kind of so I came from a good family. Basically my parents, they owned a cleaning business. They were self-employed. I did well in school. I was in sports. I have a brother and two sisters. I had a good childhood, basically. It was fun. We had a lot of fun when I was a kid. I grew up in the country, so I was always outside. We had a swimming pool. I played, football and basketball and just ninja out in the woods and whatever. If we weren't playing, mom was making us work. So I was always gone outside,
Mhm.
So it was a good childhood.
Man, what was like school like and all that growing up? Grade school, high school, what age did you kind of start to get into partying or stuff like that?
So the first time I used, I was 13. Um, Basically, my brother gave it to me. He was 7 years older than me. And my parents, we had went on a trip, and my dad didn't want to fly home. Like, we had a layover, and he freaked out, and he got off the plane, and he said he was renting a car and driving all the way from North Carolina into Indiana. And so my mom and my little sister went with him, and my older sister and I jumped on the plane and flew back to Indiana by ourselves. My brother picked us up, and he and we went to his house, and we took my sister to my house. And that was the first night I drank. I drank a pint of 151. I smoked a bunch of weed. I snorted rush. I mean, I did everything I could, and I loved it. I blacked out, puked everywhere. I mean, it scared me pretty good. But I really loved the buzz. I mean, instantly. And up until that point, I kind of looked at people using dope as losers. I mean, I just turned 48 years old, so this was like the early 90s when this happened. So I mean, the drug thing and all that was really getting going. And that was kind of the way I looked at it, and all of a sudden I'm doing it. You know what I mean? It just flew out the window. So that was the first time.
So from that, like that first
um,
time, Brent, did you start you said you kind of mentioned that you like fell in love with it type thing. Did you like continuously want
yeah.
to be using after that?
um about 6 weeks later, you know, I mean, it scared me, because I was fucked up. Excuse my language, but and I liked it, but I was scared, and I didn't. I don't know. I craved it though, and me and my buddy about 6 weeks later, um, I told him, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I've tried it too," and that's kind of all it took. And then I called my brother back and got some more alcohol. You know what I mean? And it was kind of off to the races then. I mean, it became more frequent where I started hanging out with my brother more, and we'd hang out on Sundays, and I'd smoke weed with him. We'd drive around and stuff like that. So yeah, it was starting to become more of a regular thing pretty quick.
Now, did other stuff start to kind of fall by the wayside as far as like you said you're active in sports and things like that? Now just kind of now is more prioritizing hanging out and smoking dope and drinking.
Well, I was trying to balance it. You know, I in junior high I was in on the National Honor Society. So I had the grades and I had the sports and I had all that. By the time I was a freshman, I quit. Um, I basically quit wrestling and I was kind of a two sport athlete then. I was hanging in there. I mean, I didn't destroy myself immediately, but it was starting to progress. You know what I mean? Um, so my grades were still decent at that point. It wasn't until I was about 16 when I got him arrested for the first time, where really my parents kind of found out what I was doing, and I got arrested for drinking. Um, and they actually knew the sheriff that arrested me. And, they really didn't have a clue I was doing that at that point. So that was an eye opener for them.
You want to talk about that experience? So you're 16 and you got arrested, you said?
Yeah. So I was a defensive football captain. Um, I was the vice president in my class. My mom made me go for that. I didn't want to. I didn't give a shit about it. What I wanted to do was party and play,
Yeah.
and that's what it was. But I won, and whatever. I mean, I was trying to kind of play the game. I was playing the game with my parents because I mean they didn't allow any of this shit I was pulling. They weren't cool with any of it. They didn't do it, and they didn't approve. I mean, I was getting in trouble. But the the night I got arrested, I was with this chick, and um my buddies were with me, and they're like, "Hey, we need to get out of here." We were at an apartment party. We had just started football camp. It was only a week into it, and I was getting blasted, and I told them I wasn't going with them. I'm like, "Leave. I'll find my way home. I don't give a shit what y'all are doing." And I sent them on their way, and she and I drank a fifth, and we got trashed. And sure enough, I mean, the party got loud, and it was a small one. And the police showed up. That they're beating on the door, and her brother, he was nuts. Hell, he got in a fight with one of them, a fist fight. I mean, and he was a scrawny little dude, and he didn't give a shit either. I mean, and he starts fighting the police. It allows me to escape outside. I'm outside hiding in the bushes, with like a dumbass, like they can't find me, And sure enough, I sit there for a while, and I get up, and I'm like, cool, they're gone. I don't see any cops, nothing. So I'm stumbling down the middle of the road, and boom, an unmarked sheriff comes flying up on me, and I think I'm gonna fight the guy, because I didn't know what the hell was going on. And he jumps out, and I mean, then I knew I was hit. He was in an unmarked car, is what it was, and he takes me to jail. And the other guy. So our weight conditioning coach was a sheriff. He's sitting in the jail when I get pulled in there, and he's just shaking his head like, you dumbass, you know what I mean? And it it went from there. I mean, I had to get up. I got suspended for a couple games. I was the captain. My coach, I have to go to his house. He's like, well, you're going to need to address the team. Yeah. I mean, what do you tell them? Hey, I fucked up. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, I guess pretty much that's what I did.
And how did things change at home after that with your parents? Were they kind of trying to keep an eye on you more and more sneaking around, or?
Oh yeah. Yeah. My mom, man, she tried to, she tried, but I just became better at lying. I became more of a snake, like an asshole, that I would stay all night at people's houses, I mean, I had a buddy, his grandparents, he lived with his grandparents, and he was hustling them too, and I'd stay. I mean, I just went other places, and when I drank, I didn't come home, so they didn't know that. And then the weed, I mean, I was using Visine, cologne, I mean, the gum, chewing gum. I mean, I smoked cigarettes by then, so I mean, as far as the smoke, I mean, I kind of just said, I smoke and you're going to have to deal with that, which they didn't like that, but that's what I did. So, yeah, they tried, didn't work.
How was the relationship with the football team after that?
Um, they didn't give a shit, I mean, they were, they were more like, man, this sucks that you're not with us, I mean, I was the leader.
Yeah.
And so when I gave that talk, I mean, half of them were crying, It was real emotional. I mean, it was intense because, they were doing bullshit too, I mean, I was just the one that always got caught. That's how it was, And then their parents, I had a black mark on, like I was the bad guy, and I was, but so were they. I wasn't the only one doing it.
Yeah.
So
So what did the end of high school look like for you then? Like end of high school and transitioning out of high school.
oh man, that was a train wreck. So I managed to get into college. I went to Ball State in Indiana. That was like a just a time bomb. It was full freedom and it was balls to the wall. I started out, I tried to go to class, and I mean, my efforts were there. I like to party more than I like to do anything else, and I mean, hell, I got in some fights there. I got called to the dean's office. Um, I mean, it was a mess, So after the first year, I just told my parents, I was like, y'all are wasting your money. I'm done, It took 1 year, and I was like, I'm gonna quit. So, I never really wanted to go to school. I was kind of like everybody went, that's what you did. So, um, after that, I went, my mom, she thought that college was where it was at. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with college unless you are absolutely a fuck up like I was, then it wasn't a good thing to do. Um, so I went to community college in Kokomo. Um, and that was just something to keep him off my back, you know, at that point.
Yeah, at that point, are you still drinking and using drugs
Go
and
ahead.
whatnot?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I had at this point taken several hits of acid. I mean, we used to trip on acid. The first time I did that, I was 14. I went to a Motley Crue concert and ate acid, and I probably tripped maybe 30 different times, you know. We'd eat acid and drink, and I mean, you could drink like a fish. So I'd drink a fifth of liquor or whatever and not feel it until I'd be throwing up and, blacking out. And as far as I did cocaine, not a lot of coke because it wasn't around, but I mean, I basically do whatever, within minus shooting up. That was my line.
Did you graduate from Kokomo?
Yeah, I graduated from the high school I went to. Uh-huh.
Oh no,
Yeah.
sorry, the community college after.
Well, I went to Ball State for a year, and then I went to a community college for a semester, and then yeah, that's it. I actually quit going to class. Um, and I actually got a job at a place in the mall in Indianapolis. So I was driving an hour each way, and I liked the city life. So I ended up moving to Indianapolis, and I got arrested the first month I was there.
What happened there?
Yeah. Well, so I was 19. This was my fifth arrest. So I didn't tell you about all the others that happened before this. I just told you about the first one. I got arrested that time. I was in so they had a place called Union Station, and they had a putt-putt course, and they sold beer there. And I lived pretty close. I moved to the hood. I really didn't know. I was from a rural town. I moved straight downtown in the hood, and so I met the manager of the putt putt place. I don't know how I met him. I lived there about a month, and they sold beer there, you know, and he was cool. And so I'm like, hey man, can you hook me up? And he's like, yeah, I'll hook you up. So I'd go down there and drink beer with him for free. I was underage. It was like a rundown mall. It's kind of a shithole. There wasn't a lot of people in the mall. I mean, it was kind of as a failing mall, and he just happened to do that. So I took some weed down there, and we'd go into his office and smoke one hitters and drink beer, and get a buzz on. And well, I had some friends come in from town from college, and we all went down there, and we were getting drunk and getting loud, and the mall police came up, and I mean, they popped us, for underage drinking. Well, I was already on probation from another charge I had. And so they had me on a 15-day hold in a drunk tank where it was about 90% black. I mean, there was about 100 inmates. Me talk about some bullshit I was in, and they had me on a no bond for the first time. Every other time I was getting out. This time I wasn't. And it was pretty scary, you could smoke in jail back then and stuff. And, they were stealing cigarettes from my buddies. And, if you can't beat them, join them. So I kind of, you know, I kind of separated myself from my buddies because they were all going home, and none of them were really fighters. So, I mean, I did the next best thing and talked some shit about getting the couple of the black dudes some weed. I mean, that's how I was going to survive in there. You know what I mean? That's just the way it was. But it come to find out from my hometown, my parents were friends with the prosecutor of Indianapolis. She was from my hometown and she pulled the file and got me out of it. So I was only in there about 24 hours. I mean, and they had me on a 2-week hold. So that was great. But, really all that shit really wasn't helping me. It wasn't helping me get clean. It was enabling me to get out of more shit and go deeper. If anyone's watching that, if you're a parent, don't enable them, let them sit there. My dad wanted me the first time I got arrested to sit in jail, and my mom, she thought I'd get hurt. Well, fuck, I was a lot worse for getting out, than I was whatever would have happened there. So
Brent, at this point, do you like think that you have a problem with, say, alcohol or drugs?
right now,
No, not right now. Like when you're at in jail
oh,
that time. Not right now.
oh
When
yeah,
you're in jail.
yes, oh yeah, man, for sure. No, I knew I had a problem a lot earlier than that. Probably, I'd say, by the time I was about, well, I'll tell you a story. This is when I really knew. So we go on spring break. I take a half ounce of weed, I hide it in my suitcase, and some acid. We go to Florida with my parents. I take a buddy, and so we go, we eat a hit of acid when we get there, and we start walking, and we're shopping and we're tripping on acid bad. I mean, we're higher than hell. It starts raining. So we head back towards the beach, and we pass my resort, and I hear my mom say my name. In a way, I knew I was in trouble. You know, she said Brent, and I'm like, oh shit. You know that. So I go up to the room. Well, I had a half ounce of weed in my suitcase, but I had a couple of joints and a stone in my drawer. Well, that's what she found. She found that, and and I was hiring shit, and she's like, what is that? What's going on? And I'm like, it's the fucking maids. you know I mean, it was the stupidest thing, but that's all I could think at the time. I mean, I was scared because I was in big trouble. I mean, I knew I was in huge trouble, and I mean, I just lied, instantly. I mean, I was a damn liar all the time. That's what it made me do. you know but so to make a long story short, I got out of that situation. Me and my buddy, we went to the ocean. I grabbed that half ounce of weed, and we were like, let's throw this weed in the ocean and quit. And we sat there and we debated. He was my best friend, and then I'm like, I don't want to. I want to get high, and he's like, me too. And we didn't. I mean, I didn't throw it in. And I knew I was in trouble. That was a big, big situation, where I knew I was pretty hooked, even then. So yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that was the thing. I always had hope that I could get out of it. But every time I would try, I'd last like 2 hours, and I'd be like, fuck it, let's get a buzz, you know. I mean, that's the way it was.
Mhm.
And then it got worse, lots worse.
Yeah. So what happens after the last time you tell us about getting getting arrested there? So now you're 19. What do your early 20s start to look like?
So I kind of went from job to job, you know. I I got a job as a carpet cleaner for a couple years, and I got fired from that because some lady said I hit on her, you know, some housewife. I don't know if I did or didn't. I mean, I might have, you know. I mean, I I wouldn't put it past me, you know. I didn't think, you know, I didn't do some bullshit to her. If that's what, you know, I don't know what she told them, but I got fired from that job. And then I was gonna move to Miami. I ran into this dude I grew up that was friends with my brother. That was a train wreck. He stole his mom's Cadillac, and we went to Miami. I about went to jail down there. Got about 8 sheriffs called on me at a hotel in Miami. Same thing in Vegas. You know, I mean, anywhere I went, I brought some bullshit. You know, it was like the police were not far. You know, because I'm not even touching base on the violence. You know, the alcohol made me fight. I like a lot. You know, I mean, I got in a shit pot of fights, bar fights, street fights. Didn't matter how big, how many. I didn't give a shit. You know, I drank whiskey, and when I got to that point, it was on, you know, and that's how it was. Alcohol was terrible with me. I mean, because I'm an all-in guy, you know. If you give me a blunt, I'm gonna smoke it till it's done. You give me a fifth, I'm gonna drink it till it's gone, you know, or I get locked up or whatever. That's why I can't do anything, you know. I don't touch anything. Since July 21st of 2010, I haven't touched a fucking pill, a joint, a hit of whiskey, a beer, nothing, you know. The only thing I've taken is Advil. That's it, you know, because that's me. I'm all in or all out.
So Brent, on July 21st, what changed then, man?
So that was my 12th arrest, you know. It ain't about the arrest. It ain't about rock bottom. It ain't about shit. It's about the fact that I was pushing death because from the 20s to I was 35 years old, I got into the pills real heavy. I got into fentanyl. I got into methadone. I got into crack. You know, I mean, he asked me what happened after 19. Well, it got so much worse. You know, I was in a relationship with this woman for about 12 years, and we were nuts. You know, I didn't marry her, but we lived together, and that was chaos, you know, and she was an alcoholic, you know. But so basically I was pushing death, you know. I wanted to die, man. I had a seizure when I was 26, um, a grand mal seizure. And then I had another seizure about 7 months before I got sober. And I told my best friend, I said, let me die. And he's like, I'm going to call the ambulance. I'm like, no, you're not. I will fucking fight you half dead right now if you call the ambulance. I mean, I didn't care. You know, I wanted to die. I hated it. I hated myself. I hated all of it. You know, it was awful, you know. And so I was mixing heavy shit. I was, you know, mixed fentanyl and Xannies and take a hit at crack and fall over and wake up and get another blast to the head. I didn't give a fuck, you know. But I got in a wreck, and I wrecked my parents' car. I didn't have shit, you know. I lived in some crummy apartment. I mean, I had stuff before, I lost it all, you know, all that. Same song and dance as every other idiot that, you know, goes down the path of it. I mean, I call myself an idiot. I'm not calling everyone an idiot. You know, I was the idiot. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's not cool because it's a terrible, terrible place to live, you know. And to be completely transparent, I wouldn't wish that on my own worst enemy, you know, living like that. But I got in a wreck in the hood. I was actually heading to the strip club, and I had been doing Klonopins and drinking straight nasty vodka all day. I slammed into the back of a car. They jumped out, and I was gonna run. I was gonna flee the scene, and they jumped out. So my natural instinct was to fight. So I jumped out, and then just boom, the police were on it, you know, because it was right in the hood. They must have seen it, or I don't know. And I just put my hands behind my back, you know. I mean, I didn't even, I knew I was hit. So I went, and I don't know, I was in a few days, and I got bonded out. And as soon as I got out, you know, every time I'd be in jail, I'd pray to get sober, you know. And as soon as I get out, I'd be like, you know, I mean, I was withdrawing every time. So it didn't take long to be like, man, you know, I call the dealer or whatever. And that's what I did. I called them, I got some pills, and I ate them all, and ate everything I bought, last money I had. I don't know what it was, but the very next morning I woke up and I was like, man, fuck this. I am done. I'm done. So I drove my parents' wrecked car to their house, and I told them everything I was on and asked them if they'd let me stay there, and let me fight, you know. And that's exactly what happened. Um, I don't know. It wasn't really anything, but kind of just so sick and tired. I mean, I've been doing that since I was 13, you know, and it wasn't killing me. And I began to fight that day.
So what did it look like for you you know, for you to get into recovery? Was it just, did you start going to meetings, or did you go to rehab, or inpatient, outpatient, or?
So what I did, I went to their house, you know, and I told them, you know, I humbled myself like a 5-year-old kid. And I was like, hey, I need you to watch me. Don't let me leave. Don't let me out of your sight. I want to get clean and I'm ready to fight, you know. And I meant it. Like I really meant it for the first time. And I was completely serious. And I'll tell you what saved my life, and it wasn't them. The fifth day I was there, I was really starting to detox, and the shit was coming out of me, and I was getting ready to give up. And um, I went out on their deck. They've got some land, and I went outside, and I smashed their deck. And you know, I mean, I'm like, I can't take it. You know, I was withdrawing so hard, and I was ready to just forget it. and leave, just walk out of there. I didn't have a car or anything, because I purposely got all that shit away from me so I couldn't leave. And I was just going to walk. I laid out in their driveway and I prayed for the first time in my life since I really had been high, and running with the devil. And I prayed for God to give me strength, is exactly what I did. And I'll never forget it. And it felt like he was reaching inside of me, and it was like, I got you, you know. I don't know. I can't explain it. It's not something, unless you tap into that, I don't know how to explain it. All I know is that saved me that moment in time. And that's why I'm clean today. Because what I learned how to do was tap in to God's power when I'm not strong enough to overcome anything. I don't care what it is. So that is my savior, and that's exactly what I do and what I know. So basically, after that minute, I went inside and I made a Hungry Man TV dinner, a turkey dinner that tasted like shit. But you know what? I was free and I beat that second. And man, I felt different. I felt like a warrior. You know what I'm saying? Like I felt not defeated. I felt empowered. I felt strong in a weakest way you could ever feel. So I was the yin and yang of hell, but I was sober and I wasn't on other shit. I didn't take anything. I was fighting for my life, because I'll tell you what, my mom, she'd say, well, let's go to a therapist. Or I'm like, I know what I need to do. It's not use drugs or alcohol. Like, it was to me, a simple formula. And because I was pushing death so hard, I didn't give a shit if going cold turkey killed me or not. This is my own personal journey. I fought it and I was willing to risk death cold turkey, because I didn't give a shit, for one. And for two, I didn't really know what I was doing. And for three, everything I did to push for the past years didn't kill me. So I thought, well, how in the hell is getting off of it going to kill me? So I'm not doing it, and that was my thought. And that's why I went cold turkey. And it was hell. But I'll tell you what I learned that day was I learned how to fight the cravings, and they kept coming. They came as much as they came before the prayer, but I started praying every time they came, and I was praying all damn day long is what I was doing, because they were coming and I was still wanting to get high so bad I could taste it, but I wasn't. Um, and that's exactly how it happened. I didn't go back to my house for 40 days. I went home on my 40th day and I was by myself. The first time, though, I was truly by myself was about 3 weeks into it. This is a real intense story, because this was okay, so I'm with my parents, for 3 solid weeks. I'm not talking to anybody. I feel like shit, but I'm beating drugs. And so that was huge. I was like, I want to go to the bookstore and read something, right? And I had some money, because I wasn't doing dope. And I had some money in my pocket, and I was reading it's called Healing the Addicted Brain. And I was sitting in the bookstore at the mall, and my phone rings, and I answer it, and it's my old pill guy. And I'll never forget this. He goes, "Hey man, I ain't talked to you in a while." I was like, "Yeah, what's up?" "Well, I got 10 lore tabs." And I go, "Fuck you." And everybody in the bookstore turned and looked at me. You know why, you know? And I hung the phone up. But for 1 second, I thought, boy, that sounds so good, But I did what I had to do to stay clean. No one would have known. I could have had him come on through. I had the money, you know what I mean? But my reaction was intense like that. I mean, but it was cool because I beat that. And that was empowering, big time. I mean, that was awesome. Even though it sucked because I wanted the pills, shit. I loved the lower tabs, but I didn't do them. And that was badass, straight up.
So when you move out of your parents' place there, so after 40 days,
Yeah.
are you praying still all day, every day? The cravings still happening like that, or is it kind of and how are you able to deal with that on your own?
So I went back to school. You know, my mom always thought college was everything, right? Obviously. I take an advanced writing course at the local college that I ditched, 15 years prior. I enrolled in college. I went ahead and I went and just took my charges, my punishment for getting arrested, the DUI, and um, you know, so I was going to AA through the courts, and that was the first time that I was forcing myself to talk. I never talked at meetings prior to this, not once. I'd say pass, and every time I'd be high, or I'll snort some powder or whatever. And but this time I was going once a week. You know, I was doing the court stuff, but I started reading my Bible. And I started writing some shit. I started writing a book called Piece by Piece. I've got it tatted on my arm. I start getting some ink, and just some small things. Like I got my first one at 24 days. With God, all things are possible. Matthew 19:26. I mean, I went that doing that stuff, and I kind of just I got baptized on my 53rd day. I'd been baptized when I was a kid, but this time I did it for me. I just started doing shit that I hadn't done, and I really didn't know what I was doing. I went to college, I felt like a dumbass. I got new threads and my shoes are real clean, and hell, I'm twice as old as the kids, and I feel like an idiot. I'm withdrawn from dope, and I find out I'm smarter than half of them. They can't spell worth a shit, But we get in these classes, and I start writing, and I get up, and I mean I have to talk, and hell, I didn't want to talk. I mean, I just wanted to sit there and just meld into the wall, but I was pushing myself out of my comfort zone, doing bullshit I didn't want to do. And that's how I was like really growing, you know, and it was empowering my sobriety. And just I was scared of doing it, because really all I knew was the dope game at that point, but I was like going back into society. Even though I was in it high, and now I'm in it sober, and that was weird. But it was cool, you know. I mean, I just kind of laid low, like, and did what I had to do, and I spent a lot of time by myself, you know. But I got into a life group with some church people, you know, and I'd be sitting there in the Sunday night life group, thinking about the street life and what the fuck I was doing right then, you know, reading Genesis or whatever, and thinking, wow, you know, a month ago or whatever, a couple months ago, I was, you know, knocking on death's door, and here I am in a life group around all you people that are, you know, never done dope in your life. I mean, I was thrown into all this shit, you know, and it was weird. I mean, it was pushing me in weird places, you know, but they were good for me. Like I knew it was good, you know. So I did it anyway, whether I was having fun or it sucked or whatever. I did it, you know, and I was following through for the first time. So that's kind of how I beat that early sobriety stuff, you know. Um, Stayed busy, you know. I mean, I worked, and that was tough, you know. And then I just wrote a lot, and frankly locked myself up at my apartment, you know.
Brent, you mentioned you were kind of nervous about like talking in class and stuff. How do you go from that to, you know, motivational speaking?
Okay. Yeah, right. That's a good question. So at 104 days, I gave my first talk at my parents' church. Background, junior year of high school. I get up, I'm in a speech class. My mom makes me take it. This will be good for your future. I was nervous. I hated public speaking. I cussed and sat down. That was my first speech. Yeah, I know. it, I'm like, I froze, you know, like a deer in headlights.
Mhm.
I froze. I'm like, I cuss, I sit down, and I tell the teacher, flunk me. She was nice. She was like, well, you know, and I'm like, no, I ain't doing it. That was kind of, we went to state in football, you know, we were supposed to speak. I mean, I hated it. So what happened though, when I got clean, I felt like a miracle was happening in my life. And as much as I hated public speaking, I felt like it was a purpose for God. It wasn't for me, you know, it was for God and his power, you know, and it was something greater than me. So I said yes to it, and I did it, you know, it was just out of the comfort zone. And then as time went on, um, I started doing more of them, you know. Um, I've probably done in my 12 years and several months of sobriety, I'd say around 35 of them, you know, 35 different talks. Um, and they're never easy for me, but I always say yes, you know, because I mean, that's just, to me, it's, if it helps anybody, that's great, you know. I mean, that's what this is about. It's not about anything but paying your gift forward, you know. I mean, to this day, I don't take anything for granted. I don't, I mean, I'm humbled every day by my sobriety, you know. I mean, which is fantastic. I don't disrespect it. You're not going to see me in the news, you know, saying I relapsed or some bullshit. I take this very serious. And the people in my town, they know that when I die, I'm the man who changed my life. That's me. They know me by the asshole, and they know me by the guy that changed his life. That's what I'm known for around here. And they respect that. And I take that very serious, you know. So that's why I do it.
No, I've kind of noticed you. You know, you challenge yourself with some different things too. So I think I saw something about some MMA. You did? Was that in recovery or
Yeah, so
you just
I
missed the
did
fighting? Was that part of it?
well. So I was about a year into my sobriety. I went back and started training at an MMA gym. Well, because I'm balls out, they hired me as I was a trainer, and I started taking jujitsu. I was teaching a CrossFit class. I was taking stand up, and I was just letting the beast out, the rage and the just everything that comes with addiction. It doesn't leave you, like, I mean, the drugs leave you, but you've got to have something to let out your stress and everything, and that was it for me. So I was training, and I met my wife. So we met at a dinner, and about a month after I met her, I'm like, I'm gonna fight in the cage. And she's like, what? And I thought, you know what? It's time to jump into the cage. I was 39 years old and doing my first cage match. So I took a 10-week fight camp. It was brutal, but my wife was my nurse, so that was nice. I mean, I have black eyes and busted ribs and all that shit, and I was all in. So by the time I got to the fight, I killed him. Like, I destroyed this guy. Um, and it was great. Like, it was a challenge. That's what it was. It wasn't about it was about people seeing, hey, this dude has come from this life, and it's just setting an example. You know, the shit I was doing all along was setting an example for these people that I was trying to, I guess, lead into a better life. Some respects, at least show them, hey, you can come out of this shit, and you can do other things and live a good life. And but it's going to take work, and this is work right here. And I mean, that's what I was doing. And so after the cage, I just built on that. I built on the challenges. 2020, I ran my first marathon, and I raised $5,000 for an addiction recovery place on my own. I just did Facebook Live and ran like a madman, you know, and raised money because, there's too many people they're not like, I'm seeing a lot of shit where they're backing off their word or whatever, and that's not me. If I say I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna fucking do it, and I'm gonna give it my best shot. So
Now the one you're doing now, you're doing a 30-minute a day for a year.
yeah.
Is that just for awareness or anything, or is that just a challenge you just had with somebody or
No, well, that was my own idea one day. So we own a cleaning business. We started it in 2016, my wife and I, and it's grown and all that. And so we bought some land, and we bought all it had on it was a horse barn. We've got 9.5 acres of land now, and we converted the horse barn into a house. um, but through that time, I quit training, for about 6 months. And before that, I mean, I did powerlifting. I did a powerlifting meet. I got into that. I mean, I've kind of done a lot of different physical challenges, but I was kind of getting fat, and stupid and out of shape and whatever. And I felt that way. And so, no, December 27th of last year, I went back to the gym, and a couple of weeks into it, we went on an overnight thing at a nice hotel. And I looked in the mirror. I was at their gym, and I'm like, man, you're pathetic. You know what I mean? Like, I need to step it up. And so right then, and I had already been training every day. So I'm like, I got a full year's challenge. So I went back to the hotel room, and I told my wife, and she just rolled her eyes because she's used to my shit, you know. She's like, okay, well, that sounds nuts, but all right, I know you'll do it. Well, here I am 11 months into it, and I ain't missed a beat, you know, every day, no matter what. I have trained at least 30 minutes. I'm doing a lot of two-a-days. And honestly, man, it's really just about staying mentally focused and just it's good for you. You know, it's good to throw some weight around, or I do a lot of running, you know, running. I mean, for me, it clears my head, and I can let out some shit, you know, like you can't outrun, you know, your, I bet I'm the madman in the gym some days, you know, but hey, it's cool. I mean, whatever floats your boat, you know, whatever you got to do to stay sane and hopefully keep the stress down. Uh, we started a couple other businesses as well this year, so you know our it's it's very busy. You know, I have a very busy life. We don't have kids; we have animals. And then she wants horses and goats and all kinds of shit. You know, I'm gonna need to hire out somebody to feed all the shit because I ain't gonna have time. But that's what's going on, you know.
It's awesome, Brent. Um, Brent, before we wrap it up, do you have any advice for anyone still out there struggling?
Yes. Don't wait. Like, just I buried I buried my best friend in 2020. I mean, I've buried many friends, but you could be next, you know. Do get help, you know. I mean, there's a lot more places available, and a lot more people are aware of addiction, and they want to help, you know. And I don't want people to just this is my personal opinion. I think you got to know that it's a hard route. It ain't easy. This ain't for the weak, but there's a great life outside of it, you know, and you can do it. I'm living proof. You ain't gonna go down a rabbit hole deeper than I did and then crawl the hell back out. So if I can do it, you can do it. I mean, I know everybody says that, but that's true. That is so true. But if they want coddled or think it's going to be easy, this is between you and your God or whoever, you know, whatever. It's on you. That's it. You know, I mean, you get the best support in the world, but if you're not willing to fight, it ain't going to happen for you. You know, you've got to be all in, you know. That's my advice. Be all in and challenge yourself, you know, and stay humble. You know, humble is everything, you know. I never feel like, oh, I've got it whipped. I don't. I've got the shit buried out in the backyard, you know, deep under the ground, and it ain't coming up no matter what. You know, and be proactive. You know, I mean, these challenges I've done, nobody puts a gun to my head and says, go run a marathon. I'm a linebacker, not a marathon runner. You know, that's it. But I'm also a guy that knows to push myself, you know, and be an example. You don't have to be you can be a silent leader or whatever, but those are just things that, and then just be real, be truthful, keep your word. If you say you're going to do it, don't be bullshit. No one respects that. And you're not going to lead anybody by being an asshole or a liar, be who you are and be strong, but when lean on the support, that's good, and cut off the rest. Cut them off. I mean, I love my brothers from growing up, and I see them in the street and they tell me they're proud of me, and we keep moving because some of them are still doing the same stuff, and they know, but I love them, and it is what it is, man. I don't have anything against them. I love them, but yeah, they're done. So that's all I got.
It's good advice.
Yeah, Brent, thank you so
Hey,
much for joining us today, man.
oh, you're welcome. I hope that my cussing wasn't too much, but this gets a little crazy. So
Oh, man, it wasn't bad at all. We curse all the time.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this is only the second one I've ever done of these, so I don't really know too much about them, but hopefully that, I hope somebody gets some help from it.
Yeah. Thank you so much again for joining us, and everyone listening. We'll have Brent's website posted in the description below. And Brent, thanks again, man. We appreciate it a
Oh,
bunch.
you're very welcome. No problem.
Guys, if you or someone you know is struggling, please reach out and ask for help. Thank you for listening.